This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN.Network. And joining me right now is Neil Chakravarti. He is the president and COO of WOW Unlimited Media. It's a publicly traded company. The symbols are WOW, WOW on the TSX Venture, and WOWMF on the OTCQX. And you can actually see WOW make a presentation at our upcoming investor event, the SNN.Network Canada virtual event, which is happening January 6th to 7th, 2021, next week. And to hear that presentation, please register at Canada.SNN.Network. Now, with that, Neil, it's been a couple years. I'm so happy to see you. How you doing? And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Robert. I'm doing fine. Thank you, given the circumstances. It's good to see you're doing well. The pandemic's been a great learning experience for most of us, if not all of us. And, happy to be here and happy to be looking forward to 2021 and leaving 2020 behind and hopefully the worst of this pandemic behind.
Let's just, the light is at the end until we got the vaccine. So let's hope it gets distributed relatively quickly. So with that, like I said, it's been a couple years since we had you on the program here, so I want to start off with, let's get that very quick overview of the company first, just to give some perspective on what WOW Unlimited Media is, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. The core business is animation. And unlike a lot of other animation companies, we're not focusing just on kids animation. It's adult animation as well. And when it comes to animation, we're doing animation services. So producing animation for other owners of IP and properties, and also our own intellectual property that we're then licensing out to streamers. One of the easiest ways to think about the business is that if Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Disney Plus is the gold rush, then we're one of the companies making the quality picks and shovels for that gold rush. So it's an easy proxy to that growth of that business. The other side of our business is the digital side, where we have a very large YouTube multi-channel network. It's largely around animation, video gaming. And that's our sort of direct-to-consumer business, where we have a constant connect, if you will, with a very large audience base, and we're generating well over 1 billion views a month. And we get great perspectives from an audience in terms of the content they like, what's sticky, what's not. And it's a great test tube for us to test many of our products and IPs.
Very good. So like I said, the last time we had you on here was about 2 years ago. So I'm not going to ask you to go through every news release that you've done since then, but let's maybe get some milestones from kind of like a year in review. What would you say are some of the major highlights for the company this year?
Well, I think let's focus on 2020. This was a very interesting year because, like the whole world, we were faced with COVID in March, and immediately, there were many critical discussions across the organization on how to position ourselves for that. We were fortunate to make a successful transition from a real studio to a virtual studio very, very quickly. We did it in a matter of days. And it was largely because we had set up almost 1.5 years ago something called a global studio pipeline, which is a virtual studio setup. And we already had many people working on it from a foreign studio. So when COVID hit us, it was a matter of how quickly can we scale up that sort of virtual enterprise software, if you will, to the point where 400 people in Vancouver can join that. And that was done by our technology team in a matter of days, and with the studio working with them in tandem. That was a great feat. So that sort of helped us get to optimal levels of productivity and efficiency very quickly. So that was, looking back, that was kind of the biggest positive for the year. The other thing we did this year was, when the pandemic hit, we started looking everything from the lens of essential versus non-essential. And we decided that as a small company, the most important task on hand is to survive this pandemic and be prepared for what's ahead. And therefore, we had to make a very difficult decision to restructure parts of our business, especially on the digital side. Businesses that were not making money or were not EBITDA positive, we decided to restructure so that we can align ourselves as a company that's not burning money anymore. And we have businesses that are spitting out cash flow, and can help us build the future once the pandemic is done. So those were some of the big decisions and the big things that we did this year. Aside from that, we've been doing some great service work for our clients and partners like Mattel, like DreamWorks, which we continue to do for a long time. We've been continuing to produce shows like Castlevania, which is a bit of a cult hit on Netflix. It's right now we're producing season 4 of Castlevania. We just had another pickup by Netflix of Bee and Puppycat, which is also another large franchise that we initially built on YouTube. And then we did a Kickstarter and continued building it on YouTube. And now it's been picked up by Netflix. So it's found a new home. And then some of our newer properties are starting to trend very well on social. So one of our properties, Catbug, last time I checked, has over 190 million views on TikTok of content around Catbug. So this year's been about A, repositioning, B, successfully overcoming the challenges from the pandemic, keeping the vision aligned of building a great animation company with a good mix of service and IP. And the restructuring has allowed us to sort of cut a lot of the burn so that the year ahead becomes, in a sense, a turnaround year from a financial standpoint for the company.
It's pretty interesting. It's, Cobra Kai was such a sensation. And the reason I bring that up is because it was on YouTube Premium. And I watch YouTube, like great. I mean, I'm on YouTube all the time. All of our stuff's on YouTube and everything. And yet I never watched it because I wasn't going to do the premium. And it gets picked up by Netflix, has a whole new, it's stratospheric, right? Like we're all about to watch season 3, in a couple days here. But the reason I bring this up, because I think it's interesting, this model that WOW has put together where you kind of have your own little laboratory, right? To see what shows work, what doesn't. So, what was the thought process there? When did you guys start developing that and really start to see the benefit of maybe trying things out there and then seeing, if they have legs and maybe then pitch them to some of these bigger streamers?
The YouTube business has been part of WOW from day one. The philosophy of being present in the social, sort of digital social sphere from day one was very critical to us, and the Frederator asset played a very critical role in that. If you really think about the video world, YouTube is by far the largest player. And while when you look at the SVOD world, it's not just Netflix, it's Disney Plus is coming up and HBO Max is there, Apple's there, Amazon's there. In the AVOD world, I would argue that YouTube is not just number 1, it's number 1 to 19. There's no one even close to YouTube in that world. So large is their dominance. And therefore it's a great laboratory for audience discovery, content discovery, talent discovery. The premise of having a YouTube MCN was that we can find great independent animation talent and continue Frederator's legacy of working with indie talent and using YouTube to test projects, build audience feedback, A/B test some of that feedback, go take that feedback and use it for the pitches so that when you're talking to the streamers and the buyers of content, they have a much higher, more sophisticated level of audience reaction or audience interest in that content. So that was built into day one. And even today, when we look at this type of content that's coming out, there's just so much solid independent talent that we're finding. And by the way, when it comes to these independent talents today, not only are we finding them for animation, we're also using them in some cases as influencers. We're doing brand campaigns with them because they can create animation around brands and help brands develop their stories as well. So there's independent IP that can come out of that. And the independent animators are finding newer and newer ways to monetize their talent and hard work.
Very good. All right. So to close out this interview today, from what you can tell us, what would you say are some of the company's value catalysts now for 2021?
Sure. The first thing is that the company's key KPI is our backlog. We're one of the companies that continuously publishes its backlog. We recently announced that our orders on hand are at around 95 million, give or take, before Q4 sales. So at this point, one could argue that the backlog is at its highest point in the history of the company. And that should give investors great visibility into the billings for the next couple of years. Basically 95 million of billings for the next several quarters are booked already. So that visibility is important. The second thing that's important to note is that the company's IPs are starting to find more cadence. Castlevania is doing well, Bee and Puppycat's doing well. Catbug is starting to look exciting. We've got a few other IPs that are in very interesting stages of development with some of the larger streamers. So expect to see more IP coming out of the company. Expect to see the YouTube business continue to be a great incubator in finding talent, IP, and audience. And this year, should be the year where, since the studio is operating at full capacity, we start to see the benefits of operating leverage in terms of our financials.
And Neil, with that, where can our audience go and find everything they need to know to follow along the WOW Unlimited story?
Well, our website is www.wowunlimited.co. Obviously, we are available on the OTC website with all the filings, on the TSX website, and we have many social handles. We have Frederator Network, we have Mainframe Studio, we have Bee and Puppycat, we have Castlevania. All of these have social handles. It's one of the companies that has a very significant social presence for such a small company.
Very good. Look, my daughter's she's about to be 1, so we're almost ready for Castlevania. I think, right? Are we? Are we right? Are we ready for Castlevania?
Your daughter's ready for Octonauts.
Okay, we're ready for Octonauts. Okay.
Yeah. And once she crosses Octonauts, maybe she can watch the Barbie stuff that we produce for our great partner Mattel.
See, you need to come up with a surfing one, okay? That's what I need her to be watching first, all right? Because I'm expecting her to be. That's our retirement plan, is professional surfer. So come on, let's go.
So if you think of something like Baby Surfer, that sounds like Baby Shark.
See, I knew we were gonna figure something out here today. Well, Neil, with that, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
And I look forward to our next update.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil.